In this video, we want to be able to expand and then contract the map view down here on the map by clicking the icon on the right. So if I click the one on the right there, it'll stretch the map to occupy the entire view. If I click it again, it's going to shrink it down to the entire view. That's what we're going to be working on in this video. The first thing we need to do is actually add the image button to the layout. So I'm going to open up Fragment User List and go to the text tab here, and what we want to do is add an image view button down here. And once again, to save time, I've created a gist with some code so we can just copy and paste it in. So visit this URL right here, or you can just get the code from GitHub. So you can see there's an image button right here. I'm just going to copy this one. Now I'm going to go back to Android Studio and I'm going to paste it in. So you can see that added that image button right there. It's pointing to a drawable resource in the drawables folder, which is kind of that little icon right there. Now before we move on, I want you to notice how this layout is all set up. So we have a linear layout here with a weight sum of 100 and an orientation of vertical. Inside the linear layout, we have a recycler view, and we also have another relative layout. The recycler view occupies 50% of the layout weight, and then the relative layout occupies the other 50% of the layout weight. So basically the layout is chopped into two pieces. The top is the recycler view, and the bottom is this relative layout. Then inside this relative layout is our map, and then any of the icons that we're going to add to the map. So in that case, there's just one. There's just this image view button. So our goal in this video is to basically dynamically change the layout weight. So when I click this button, what I want to happen is I want the recycler view's layout weight to go to 0 and the relative layout's layout weight to go to 100 so that it will occupy the entire view. Then when you press the button again, the opposite thing will happen. So the recycler view will go to a layout weight of 50 and the relative layout will go to a layout weight of also 50. And we're going to use animations to animate those transitions. That's what we're going to be doing. Alright, so let's open up Fragment User List and get started. And like I said earlier, I've created a gist to save time. So once again, I'm going to be going to this gist and we're going to be copying some code. So we have kind of an on-click section here. We're going to take a look at that later. That's going to be for triggering the transition, for actually activating it. And then in this user list fragment section here, we have a couple methods. One is expand map animation. One is contract map animation. So that's the one that we're going to use to expand and contract the map. If I keep scrolling down here, I have something called a view weight animator wrapper. So this is a helper class that's going to help us animate those changes. This is the first thing we need to copy. This is what's going to be able to change the layout weight of those UI components. So I'm copying everything here except for the package. You could copy the package technically too, but I'm just copying that. So now I'm going to go back to Android Studio and we're going to create that new class. So I'm going to go into the util package. I'm going to right click, go to new Java class, and I'm going to call this view weight animation wrapper. And then I'm just going to copy or hover over all that and I'm going to paste it in. So we don't need to do anything else to this class. It's just going to be a helper class. It's for changing the weight of those UI components. So I'm going to go back to user list fragment, and now I'm going to go back, or I'm going to close this to give us more room, and we're going to figure out what's next. So I'm back to the gist here. Now I'm in this user list fragment.java section, and I'm going to copy the method expand map animation and contract map animation. So I'm going to copy those, go back to Android Studio, and I'm going to paste these actually at the very bottom of the file because they're not really used very much. They're just kind of, I don't know why, but I like to paste this kind of stuff at the bottom of the file. Just kind of a preference of mine. Okay, so we're going to need to do some imports here. Just pressing Alt-Enter to get those imports, and there we go. So first let's take a look at the expand map animation method right here. So you can see I'm declaring the view weight animation wrapper, which we just created, that class right here. And we're passing a variable named mMapContainer, which we haven't created yet. And then we have an object animator object, which is looking for the property of height, looking for the value of 50, and then the ending value is going to be 100. And then the duration of the animation is 800. So this is the map, right? So the map starts at 50% layout weight, and we want it to end at 100% layout weight. Then if you look down here at this second section right here, we're talking about the recycler view. So the recycler view is also starting at 50, but in this case, we want it to end at 0. So The expand animation will have the map. If we take a look at the map again, the expand animation has the map at 50, ending at 100, which is what you see right here. And then the recycle view is going from 50 to 0. So if we scroll down here and we look at the contract method, it's going to be the exact opposite. We have the map, here I'll open the map. We have the map starting at 100, which is at 100, and we want it to end at 50. We have the recycle view starting at 0, and we want it to end at 50. So I'm pressing that, and that's exactly what you see. And then you call recycler animation start, map animation start. So obviously we need to create this variable, so that's what we're going to do right here. So this is going to be the relative layout right here. So remember, the two things that are occupying the layout weight are this relative layout and this recycler view. So we have the recycler view right here. We just need to attach the relative layout to this variable. So I'm scrolling to the very top. Oh, I need to put this actually under the widgets heading. Relative layout and map container. And then inside of onCreateView, I'm going to go mmapContainer equals view, find view by ID, r.id.mapContainer. And so that's going to be the ID of the relative layout. If we take a look in here, that is the ID right there. All right, so we're almost done. We actually just need to handle a click now. So if we go back to our gist, go to the onClick.java section right here, and I'm going to copy all of this, go back to Android Studio. I can't remember if we have an onClick. We don't have an onClick in here yet, so we need to implement the onClick listener interface first of all. So I'm going to scroll up to the top here. I'm going to put a comma. I'm going to implement the onClick listener interface. I can press Alt Enter and go implement methods and insert the onClick method if you want, but I already copied it from the gist, so that's fine. So I scrolled all the way to the bottom of the file. I'm going to paste in the contents of the gist. You can see it contains the onClick method, and we got some variables and some logic in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the logic, and then I'm going to take these variables and I'm going to post them at the top of the file because they don't really belong here. Variables are typically stored at the top of the file. So let's take a look at the logic here. But actually, I forgot something. I noticed, look, the ID of the button is right here. We didn't actually attach an onClick listener to the button yet. So before we walk through that, let's do that. So I'm just scrolling up to the top here. I'm going to go view.findViewById, r.id.button full screen map. So, and then you can just do set onClick listener and pass this to refer to the interface, the onClick listener interface right here. So notice that I didn't need to create a variable. All I need to do is actually set the onClick listener because that's all we need to do. Now the onClick method down here is going to trigger whenever that ID is clicked, or in other words, whenever this button right here is clicked, it's going to trigger the onClick method. So that's good. So now inside here we have two if statements. We have if the map layout state equals map layout state contracted, then what we want to do is expand the map, and then of course set the layout state accordingly. So it's basically a state system. There's two states, either contracted or expanded. If it's contracted, switch it to expanded. If it's expanded, switch it to contracted. That's the only thing that's happening here. So now I'm going to take these variables and I'm going to post them at the very top of the file. So constants here, and then I'm going to take this state variable and I'm going to put it right there. And that should be good. So now we're ready to run it and take a look and make sure that our map is expanding and contracting. Alright, I will navigate to a chat room, go to user list fragment, and now click the button, and looks good. So contracting, expanding, contracting, expanding. So everything is working as we expect at this point. Next, we're going to work on calculating directions. So we're going to start work with our directions API. So what I want to do with it is pretty much if you click on a user and click on this info window that says determine route to this user, I want another dialog to pop up and say, are you sure you want to calculate the directions? So basically we're going to work on starting the directions calculation and routes calculation and all that kind of stuff. So I'll see you in that next video.